Okay, so let's start with the super quick revision of the next chapter, that is charge of GST. Everyone here? Yes. So first of all, chapter is very important. Okay, conceptually also the chapter is important, plus from exam point of view also the chapter is going to be very important. Whatever section numbers we are going to do in this particular chapter, unless I specifically mention, it is going to be from the CGST Act. Okay, and where I mention it separately, then you don't have to worry about it. Okay, now first of all, what we studied in the previous chapter, that is the supply chapter. Whenever there is any particular transaction happening, we need to understand whether it is a supply or it is not a supply. That we mainly studied in section number 7. Okay, once you have come to know that yes, it is a supply, after that you then decide whether it is taxable supply, whether it is exempt supply, and all those things, right? Now listen, in supply also we need to understand, okay, just like we had seen what type of taxes are levied whenever the event is a supply. Okay, there can be CGST applicable, SGST applicable, UTGST applicable, IGST that can be applicable. But now we need to understand when do we apply CGST, SGST, when do we need to apply IGST, and so on. Okay, for that particular purpose, they are telling us, okay, what are they trying to tell us in this particular chapter? Here we are going to study the taxable event. Okay, the taxable event under GST is supply. That is, if supply is done. Remember, I told you one logic in the previous chapter. If there is no supply, then there will be no GST. Okay, so can we say the taxable event? Okay, that is GST will be applicable as soon as we come to know that that particular transaction is the supply. Okay, in supply there will be two types. One will be intrastate supply and the other one will be interstate supply. That you are very well aware with the terms, at least. Intrastate supply, that is the transaction is taking the supply is happening within the same state. Okay, if it is happening within the same state, can we say CGST and SGST or UTGST? Means either SGST or UTGST along with CGST will be applicable on that type of supply. And whenever there is a interstate supply happening, interstate, that is the supply is happening between two different states, or it is happening between two different union territories, or if it is happening between a state and a union territory. Okay, here when I am referring to union territory, means I am referring to that union territory which is that particular union territory which is not having its legislature. Okay, example everyone. Okay, any transaction between Maharashtra and Gujarat. Okay, any transaction between Maharashtra and Gujarat, that will be called as interstate supply. Okay, any transaction between, let's say, your Dadra and Nagar Haveli and let's say Lakshadweep, even that will be considered as interstate supply. Okay, let's say there is a transaction happening between Maharashtra and Lakshadweep, even that will be considered as interstate supply, right? So these transactions will be called as your interstate supply. The examples and the pointers are given here. Okay, now a few definitions are given in which we need to consider a few definitions that will come back to it when we do the particular provisions. Okay, now starting with the provisions here, everyone. Now basic things that they have told in this particular chapter, that is, first of all, what about the applicability of the GST law? As we already know, our CGST Act 2017, this applies to whole of India, right, including the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now no need to do any sorts of bifurcation. And now, what do you mean by India? India does not only mean the land. Okay, India does not only mean the land. What are they trying to tell us here? India means 3 parts. Okay, we are going to divide it into 3 parts. Everything is given in your book. You can just refer it from the board also, everyone. From the screen also. So India is going to include the territory of India, whatever is defined in the constitution. Okay, whatever is written in our constitution, in that whatever place from year to year, okay, that will be included in the term called as India. Plus it is also going to include our territorial waters. Can you see this, everyone? It is also going to include our territorial waters. Okay, seabed and subsoil below. Okay, subsoil underlying such waters. Then it is also going to include the continental shelf, and it is also going to include the exclusive economic zone. Okay, it is also include the exclusive economic. So till here basically your this is your baseline. Okay, this is your baseline of the land. After that, can we say the sea starts? Okay, so up to 12 nautical miles your territorial water goes, up to 24 nautical mile your contagious zone goes, and up to 200 nautical miles, everything is from the baseline. Okay, that is going to be your exclusive economic zone. Till there your India is there. Okay, till there it is our territorial waters, our exclusive economic zone. And we can say that till here, okay, whatever supply happens till here, even that will be considered as if the supply is happening here in India only. And plus water we have considered, below that sea soil we have considered, land we have considered, and even the airspace above. Okay, airspace above our territory. Okay, airspace above our territory and airspace above our territorial waters. Okay, airspace even above our territorial waters will be considered as ours, right? This will be included in India. Ma'am, why did we study the definition of India? Because we studied it from the point that CGST Act is applicable to whole of India. So whole of India means what? Okay, similarly now state GST law of the respective state or union territory with legislature, that is of Delhi, Jammu Kashmir, Puducherry, even that extends. Now state law, okay, if I talk about Maharashtra SGST law, that is going to apply to that particular state. Are you clear with this? Yes, yes, example is also given here. Now similarly IGST is the common one, right? IGST, Parliament was having the power, so IGST Act will be applicable to whole of India. India definition remains the same. What about the UTGST law? UTGST law will be applicable to, it will be applicable to those union territories which do not have their own legislature. Do you remember the name called D and others? Yes, that was your Chandigarh, then that was your Andaman and Nicobar, then that was your Lakshadweep, then that was your Ladakh. Okay, then D was Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and any other territory as may be notified. Are you clear with this? In this, please do not include Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu Kashmir, because those will be considered as state, because they are having their, even though those are union territory, still they will be considered as state because they are having their own state legislature. Are you clear with this? Okay, now I am getting into, okay, now I am starting with section number 9 of the CGST Act, section number 9 of the CGST Act, and correspondingly section number 5 of the IGST Act. Are you clear till here? Yes. Section number 7 we did supply, section number 8 we did composite supply and mixed supply, section number 9 we are doing is supply. Okay, all these are of the CGST Act, and correspondingly, just like you have section number 9 of the CGST Act, correspondingly interstate supply is given under section 5 of the IGST Act. Now okay, I am not going to, like, we are not getting into the details of section, like example, now we are going to do section number 9(1) of the CGST Act. Okay, corresponding provisions of interstate supply are going to be there in section number 5(1) of the IGST Act. Okay, now see what are they trying to tell us here. In section number 9(1) they say that, okay, I am just telling you, since this is a super quick revision, I am just going to give you the conclusions everyone and the final summary. Now here they are telling that in section number 9(1) CGST, that is Central Goods and Service Tax will be levied on which type of supply? CGST I am talking about. CGST will be applicable on all the intrastate supply of goods and services. Are you clear with this? Okay, but it will not be applicable on alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Why it is not applicable? Because that is totally outside, the purview of your GST. Are you clear with this? And this CGST tax, okay, or the Central Goods and Service Tax, this will be applicable on what value? This will be applicable on the transaction value, which we are going to discuss in the valuation chapter under section number 50. Are you clear with this? Acha, now at what rate the CGST will be applicable? CGST will be applicable at the notified rates. For different products we are going to have different rates, but max to max, okay, max to max CGST will be there at the rate of 20%. I am not talking about CGST and SGST, okay, alone, CGST alone will be there at the rate of 20%. Okay, maximum limit, that maximum rate of tax that is notified till now. Okay, this was given under section number 9(1) of the CGST Act. Can you now tell me what will be given in section number 5(1) correspondingly? Section number 5(1) of the IGST Act. Can we say on all the interstate supplies? Right, on all the interstate supplies, IGST tax will be applicable, right? IGST tax will be applicable on the transaction value given under section 15, which we are going to study in the valuation chapter, but it will not be applicable on alcoholic liquor for human consumption. And the maximum rate of IGST, okay, maximum rate of IGST will be 40%. Ma'am, why double? Arey Baba, when it is intrastate supply, at that time, can we say CGST and SGST or UTGST is applicable? So this is 20 and 20 individually now. right? So total is anyway going to come to 40%, that is charged under IGST. So IGST rate will be maximum 40%. Okay, it is less than that only, but they have told that the section provides that maximum rate of IGST that can be notified on any particular product is 40%. Okay, and one extra point in case of this section number 5(1) of the IGST Act is that IGST will also be applicable at the time of import. Okay, whenever you are importing any goods from outside India into India, at that time you are required to pay the customs duty. Okay, along with customs you are also required to pay IGST, right? Chalo. Then after that, let's go to the next section, section number 9, subsection 2. Now, what are they trying to tell us here? Till now, CGST and IGST. Okay, we can take it together. 9(2) of the CGST Act and section number 5(2) of the IGST Act. Till now, they are telling that till now, CGST and IGST should not be levied on petroleum, crude, natural gas, ATF, high-speed diesel, etc. Why? Can you give me the answer? Because these are totally non-taxable supplies, and on these GST is not yet applicable. It will be applicable from a notified date. Okay, alcoholic liquor for human consumption we had totally excluded in section number 9(1) and 5(1). Okay, bacha kucha apna petrol, diesel, etc. on this also GST is not applicable till the notified date. So can we say even CGST and IGST will not be applicable? Yes. Okay, that was given under section number 9(2). Then after that, going on to section number 9(3) and 9(4. Section number 9(3) and 9(4, I am not taking it up here. 9(3) and 9(4 is going to talk about reverse charge mechanism. Okay, 9(3, section number 9(3) and 9(4 is going to talk about reverse charge mechanism, which we are going to deal it separately in this particular chapter only. Okay, and then going on to the last one, that is section number 9(5). Even this is a altogether different concept. Section number 9(5) talks about a person called as e-commerce, electronic commerce operator. Okay, electronic commerce operator. They say that if we are providing any services, okay, if we are providing any services through e-commerce operator, Zomato, Swiggy, etc. If we are providing any services through e-commerce operator, some notified services through e-commerce operator, then in such cases tax has to be paid by such e-commerce operator. Okay, a restaurant person providing food delivery services through Zomato, Swiggy, can we say that particular person is providing services through a e-commerce operator? Yes, so in this case, the liability to pay the tax, liability to collect and pay the tax lies on the e-commerce operator. Again, on this e-commerce operator, we have got a separate concept in this chapter only, which we are going to discuss further. Okay, so 9(3) and 9(4, both of these sections we are talking about reverse charge mechanism, and section number 9(5) is going to talk about e-commerce operator, which is going to be discussed separately. Are you clear with this, everyone? Are you clear till here? Yes, this was a basic introduction part. Now we are going to start. Okay, now we are going to start with that different concept of reverse charge mechanism. Can you give me the section numbers, everyone? Section number for reverse charge mechanism will be section number 9(3) and 9(4 of the CGST Act, and correspondingly it will be section number 5(3) and 5(4 of the IGST Act. Very clear till here? Yes. Okay, so let's continue ahead, everyone. Can we start with the reverse charge mechanism concepts? Yes, section number we had already seen 9(3) and section number 9(4. Now, first of all, let us try to understand what do you mean by reverse charge mechanism. Right? Normally what happens, there is a supplier of the service and then there is a goods or service basically, and then we have got the recipient of the goods and services. Okay, normally supply goes from this person to this person. Okay, and the tax is collected by the supplier from the recipient, and supplier pays the tax to the government. The responsibility to file the returns, to pay the tax, etc., that vests with the supplier. Okay, this is very normal thing. But now for some goods and for some services, government says that no, the tax will be paid reverse, ulta. Okay, that means normally when the supplier is liable to collect and pay the taxes, but if you are falling under the reverse charge mechanism, then in such case the responsibility to pay the tax that lies on the recipient. Okay, now let's say I am the supplier. Okay, I am providing services to you. Just an example. Okay, I am providing some services to you. Normally, what am I supposed to do? I am supposed to charge the GST from you and then pay it to the government. But in case of reverse charge mechanism, what is going to happen? Okay, I am just going to charge the value of goods or services from you, but then the tax on that value of goods or services will be paid by you to the government. Okay. So now can we say you are paying the tax to the government? So government says that, okay, in such cases, in the prescribed cases, the recipient is required to pay the taxes to the government. Okay, this taxes cannot be paid by using the input tax credit. Okay, you have to pay it by cash, or we'll see it further. You are going to pay it by using the electronic cash ledger. Basically, you have to pay it in cash. You cannot use your input tax credit that is kept with you to pay the reverse charge mechanism liability. But whatever tax you paid to the government normally, okay, normally also whatever tax we paid to the government, we take the credit of that. Okay, same way here also, the tax that you have paid to the government on this reverse charge that you have paid out of cash, so immediately in the same month itself you can take the credit of the same. Okay, so now this was normally, okay, this was normally the meaning of the term called as reverse charge. Same thing they have given up here. Now in reverse charge there will be two sections, section number 9.3 and 9.4, or correspondingly we can say section number 5.3 and 5.4 of the IGST Act. Okay, now listen. In case of reverse charge mechanism, both goods as well as services both have been prescribed. Okay, goods as well as services both have been prescribed. Goods, we do not have it in our syllabus, but for the purpose of services list many of the services which are there under reverse charge mechanism that we have in our syllabus. Okay, I have just given here for the purpose of examples. Okay, but this reverse charge mechanism of goods, okay, reverse charge mechanism of goods, this is not relevant from exam point of view. That does not form part of our syllabus, but reverse charge mechanism of services is there and is crucially very important. Okay, in fact, when you do questions till your ITC chapter, till there also you have got application of reverse charge mechanism. Okay, so this is one such important thing, conceptually also and from exam point of view also. Can we start, everyone? Yes, first one. See the type of service. Now, yes, again, I am assuming that you have at least read and seen the main lectures once, okay, and read it from the textbook, and you are here only for the purpose of revision. I hope that is the assumption and you're not using these lectures for the first time, because here, you know, we are more than doing the in-depth understanding. We are trying to recollect the provisions and consolidate all the provisions at once. Okay, now first type of service, if there is any services which is provided by a GTA, Goods Transport Agency, in respect of transportation of goods, not transportation of passengers. GTA provides transportation of goods by road if it is providing these services to those 7 persons. Okay, who are those 7 persons? Supplier of service is the GTA. Service have been provided to a registered factory or to any society which is registered under these laws, or to any cooperative society which is registered under this law, or any particular person who is registered under CGST, SGST, UTGST or the IGST law, or any body corporate which is established, or any partnership firm. This point is important. Or any partnership firm, whether it is registered or not, because it is not mandatory for the partnership firm to get registered. So any particular partnership firm or any casual taxable person located in the taxable territory. Okay, if these 7 people have taken the service of GTA for transportation of goods by road, then in such cases reverse charge mechanism is applicable. Okay, one point, I'm just explaining the concept here in the first point, so that later when we go we can take it even more faster. GTA becomes the supplier of the service. Okay, these 7 people become the recipient of the service. In case of reverse charge mechanism, can we say supplier is not liable to collect and pay the taxes to the government? In case of reverse charge mechanism, the recipient is liable to pay the tax. So your GTA is not required to pay the taxes. The taxes has to be paid by these 7 persons under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, but we have got a few exceptions here. Just try to understand. If the services have been provided, okay, if the services have been provided to any department or establishment of government, okay, central government, state government, union territory, or a local, if the services have been provided to a local authority, municipal corporation, etc., or to any government agencies, and if these people have taken registration only for the purpose of TDS under section 51. Okay, ma'am, what TDS? Is this the income tax TDS? No, here we are talking about GST TDS, which we are going to study further. So if GTA has provided services to these government entities, local authority and etc., and these government authorities have come under GST, otherwise they were not liable, but they have got themselves registered under GST only for the purpose of TDS, then in such cases RCM shall not apply. RCM shall not apply means normal forward charge will apply. Forward charge will apply means the GTA will be liable to collect and pay the taxes. Are you clear with this? Okay, and second exception, suppose if the GTA says, if the supplier himself says, no, I am okay, like I will take the registration under the GST law and I will collect the taxes from the recipient and I will pay it to the government, I will issue him an invoice, etc. Means where the GTA, when we were trying to give exemption, not exemption means a relief from from all the responsibilities, etc. But here GTA himself says, no, I am okay, I will get myself registered under GST, I will collect the taxes, I will pay to the government. Then government says no problem. Then in that case you can pay the taxes under forward charge. Okay, now see, here is the summary of the entire thing. Okay, now here the summary also includes something from the exemption chapter, but I am not taking it now because considering you are doing it chapter wise, so till now you do not have the idea of exemptions. Okay, same thing I will be again taking up in the exemption chapter, where we are going to discuss the provisions of reverse charge also plus exemptions. Okay, till now I am limiting it only to reverse charge provisions. Now your GST on the GTA services, if recipient is any of the above 7 persons, point number A to point number G, right? So if the GST is chargeable, GTA supplier has the option. Okay, if he says that I will get myself registered under GST, no problem, you pay the taxes under forward charge. Okay, there will be some rates which are applicable here. But if he says no, why should I get registered if government is anyway giving me some exceptions there, so there RCM will be applicable, and if RCM will be applicable, then recipient will be liable to pay the taxes under GST at the rate of 5%, that is 2.5%. If in case of CGST, SGST, or in case of IGST, it will be 5%. Okay, if let's say GTA himself says that I will get myself registered, then in that case he has got two options. Either you collect 5% and pay it to the government. Okay, but there the GTA will cannot take ITC. Okay, he will not be eligible for ITC. Or normally, if he wants to do everything normally, then in that case he will collect tax at the rate of 12%, pay it to the government, and normally he will be eligible for ITC. Generally they go for this option. Okay, generally they go for this option if they want to get themselves registered. Okay, this was if the recipient of the service is any of the 7 persons. What if recipient is any other person? Example, like we took the example of factory, we took the example of society, body, corporate, registered person, partnership firm, etc. What if there is an unregistered individual? Okay, what if there is an unregistered individual who is taking the service? Then in that case there was no RCM applicable. So in that case, can we say normally forward charge will be applicable? That is anyway exempted, that we will see. Okay, that we'll see in the next chapter, that is your exemption chapter. But here before exemption we can say that forward charge will be applicable, and if recipient is that government who has got themselves registered only for the purpose of GST, then also we had studied that RCM is not applicable. If RCM is not applicable means forward charge is applicable, and then we will see in the further chapter that government has given us some exemption there. Are you clear with this? So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is, if GTA does not want to get himself registered under GST and if he is providing services to those 7 people, then RCM will be applicable. The recipients will be liable to pay tax at the rate of 5%. Very clear with this? Okay, this was the first point. Now going on to the next point. Next point is a very simple point where the service, okay, legal services, that is, legal consultancy, legal advisory service, lawyer kind of a services, if that has been provided by an individual advocate, including a senior advocate or firm of advocates. Okay, individual advocate including a senior advocate. Okay, senior advocate in seniority, experience and all those things. When the service have been provided by an individual advocate or firm of advocate, and they have provided the services to any business entity, means which is engaged in into the business activities, to any business entity which is located in the taxable territory, which is located here in India, then in that case, okay, reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. That is, benefit has been given to the individual advocate or firm of advocates. You need not take the headache, and the responsibility to pay the tax to the government lies on the business entity. Okay, individual advocate or firm of advocate providing services to a business entity which was located in a taxable territory, RCM provisions will be applicable, no exceptions given there. Okay, next, services provided by an arbitral tribunal to a business entity located in a taxable territory. Now, arbitral tribunal. What is the work of arbitral tribunal? It acts, arbitral tribunal acts is nothing but an arbitrator. That is just like, not exactly, but just like a mediator between two parties. Okay, where you do out of the court settlement, where you don't want to drag it to the court. See, if you want to drag it to the court, then the lawyer is going to come into picture, advocate is going to come into picture. Okay, but if you are taking the help of a mediator, if an arbitral tribunal is providing services to any business entity, relief is given to that arbitral tribunal. You need not pay the taxes. You just collect the value of services from the business entity, and then the business entity will be liable to pay the tax to the government. Okay. Next point is sponsorship services. Okay. Now let's say if there is any particular person who is providing sponsorship services. Okay, if there is any particular person who is providing sponsorship services to a body corporate or a partnership firm who is located in the taxable territory. Okay, now here one thing needs to be very clearly understood is that if I am providing sponsorship services to you, means I am providing the sponsorship services to you and you are going to pay me that sponsorship money. Okay, means I am who? I am the recipient of that consideration. I am recipient of that sponsorship money and I am going to do the advertisement for you. Okay. Means I am doing it for whom? I am doing it for a body corporate or a partnership firm. So I am the person who is going to receive the sponsorship money and you are the payer of that sponsorship money. In that case, means recipient of that money can be any person. Okay, firm, company, etc. It can be any person, but the person who wants to pay that sponsorship money, that person, if that person is a specific point, if that person is a body corporate or a partnership firm, then in that case the responsibility to pay the tax to the government lies on that body corporate or a partnership firm. Okay, what if an individual takes that sponsorship services? Then normal forward charge will be applicable. Okay, but if the sponsorship services have been taken by body corporate or a partnership firm located in the taxable territory in India, then reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. Okay, now these points become very crucial, especially, you know, it used to become very crucial at CA inter level because they test, and even at final levels it is very crucial because, you know, if they tweak a single word also there, the entire answer changes. Okay, so you need to keep that thing in mind, and that can be done only with the help of cumulative revision. And if you solve all our questions from our question bank, which is, you know, so much exhaustive, then in that case, you know, you will get used to it. You will do mistakes in the initial questions, but then later on you will get used to it. Okay, means you will get used to it means not doing the mistakes, but of giving the correct answers. Going to the next point, if any services have been provided by the government, okay, if any services have been provided by the government to a business entity, located in the taxable territory. Now your government means central government, state government, including parliament, state legislature, court, tribunal, union territory or local authority. If they are providing any services, okay, if they are providing any services to any business entity, then in that case government says, we will not collect the tax from you and we will not pay it to the GST department. The responsibility is on you, but excluding which services? Two services are, or two headers are excluded here. One is renting of immovable property. Okay, if government has rented any immovable property to any business entity, that is excluded here, that is considered separately. And if services provided below, that is services provided by Department of Post, example speed post services, even that is provided by the government, right? Services provided by Department of Post, or services in relation to aircraft or vessel, any services provided by the government in relation to aircraft or vessel, let's say repairing services or overhaul services, if these are provided by the government, or transport of goods or passengers. So basically 4 services are excluded here: renting of immovable property, services by Department of Post, services in relation to aircraft or vessel, or services for transportation of goods or passengers. If these are provided by the government to any business entity, then as of now we will say that forward charge will be applicable. For all the other services, okay, for all the other services, reverse charge mechanism is applicable. That is, business entity is responsible to pay the tax to the government, right? Now see the point that we took out separately. Any services provided by the government by way of renting of immovable property. Okay, remember above we studied that forward charge was applicable. If government is providing this renting of immovable property services to any person who is registered, okay, be it a business entity or be it a non-business entity, but if that person is registered under GST, okay, then in such case reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. That is, government says that for this also we will not take the burden, the responsibility is going to be on the registered person. Okay, so now what about Department of Post, etc.? What about that? What about Department of Post, etc.? For that still forward charge is applicable, right? For that still forward charges applicable. Can we just recollect the pointers that we have done till now? First one was just the headers. First one was at GTA services to those 7 people. Second one was advocate services. Okay. Third one was arbitral tribunal services. Next one was sponsorship services to your partnership firm or a body corporate. Next one was government providing any sort of services except for those 4 services to the business entity. And last one was the renting of immovable property services provided by government to any registered person, right? Then the next point, service by way of renting of a residential dwelling, residential house. Above was by government of any immovable property. Here it is renting of any residential dwelling to a registered person. That is, if I am renting any residential house to any registered person, I am not responsible to collect the taxes and pay it to the government. The responsibility is on that registered person. Okay. Then the next one is services supplied by any person by way of transfer of TDR. TDR stands for transferable development right. That is, if any particular person is transferring the development rights to a promoter, your promoter can be taken as a builder. Okay, if I am providing, let's say I am having a piece of land, okay, and if I am providing the development rights to a builder that please develop a property on this, means I am transferring the TDR. Or if I am giving a floor space index, okay, to enhance the building, etc., for construction of a project by a promoter, then means I am providing the services, I am going to get something in return. Okay, means I am the supplier, that person, the promoter, the builder becomes the recipient. In that case, the responsibility to pay the taxes lies on the builder, right? Similarly, long-term lease of land. If I am giving a land on lease, that is long-term lease. Generally, it is for 30 years or more. That is, you can use this piece of land for construction of a mall or something like that, or any particular immovable property, or for construction of any project on that. Can I say I am giving the land on lease for which I am going to get some consideration in return? Means I am the supplier, that person is a recipient, that person means the builder, right? Promoter, that is the builder. So responsibility is again on the builder. So 2 common points that we studied for builder. One was supply of TDR, FSI, etc., and the next one was long-term lease. In both the cases, the builder will be liable to pay the taxes to the government. Okay, then there is a point coming up here which is related to exemptions, which we will take up in the next chapter. Okay, then the next point is talking about any services provided by director. Okay, any services provided by director of a company or a body corporate to the company. Director provides the service. Here we are not talking about employer-employee relationship. Here we are talking any services provided in professional capacity. Then in that case, director says, from where will I get the registration? Why do I take all these headaches? So the responsibility for payment of taxes to the government lies with the company. Right? See here, what are they telling? Now listen, what if the director is working in the capacity of an employee? Then can we say then it becomes employer and employee? Then it was totally outside the purview of supply as per schedule number 3. Right? But if the services are rendered not in the capacity of employee but in professional capacity, then in that case it will be a supply. And if director is providing the services to the company, then in that case reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. Right? Okay, then after that, going to the next one, services supplied by an insurance agent. Insurance agent provides the services to the insurance company, right? That is, it gets the client for which it gets the commission in return. In that case, the responsibility, can we say the insurance agent is providing the services to the insurance company for which the insurance company is required to pay commission to the agent. Liability to pay the taxes is on the insurance company. Similarly, if there is a recovery agent, okay, Vasuli Bhai, if there is a recovery agent who is providing the services, who is helping the banks or a financial institution or a NBFC to recover their debts or to recover their non-performing assets, to recover the money from the defaulters, etc. Okay, but the recovery agent is working only for these persons, that is for a bank, for a financial institution or for NBFC. Then in such cases, the liability for which the recovery agent is going to get some commission or some compensation or some remuneration. Responsibility to pay the tax is on that bank, financial institution or the NBFC. On this, many a times a question have been asked, recovery agent working for any individual person, recovery agent working for me, reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. Okay, then next one, similarly, music composer, photographer, artist, etc. Okay, if they are recording a particular song, or they are producing some, they are capturing some pictures, etc., and they are giving it to someone else for using it. Okay, they are giving their copyright to someone else to use it. Means, can I say they are going to provide the service to the music company or the producer, etc., for which they are going to get money. Okay, for which they are going to get the remuneration, compensation, whatever you want to call. So in that case, the responsibility to pay the tax is on that music company, producer, etc. Okay, similarly, if an author is providing the service to a publisher, okay, I am the author, I have written a particular content, I am giving it to the publisher under my copyright that, okay, you can use it, for which I need, example, for which I need royalty. In that case, author is not liable to collect any GST on that, or is not liable to collect any GST from the publisher. The responsibility is on the publisher himself. But yes, here in case of author only, okay, in case of author only, they have told that what if the author says that I will get myself registered, etc., then no problem. Then the author himself can get registered, he can collect the taxes from the publisher and pay it to the government. Okay, then after that, if there is any particular service which has been provided by overseeing committee constituted by the RBI, if RBI constitutes a committee called as overseeing committee, which is formed to keep a check on few matters. If those committee members are providing, can we say they are providing services to the RBI, they are doing some work on behalf of RBI or for RBI, for which RBI is going to pay them, responsibility to pay the tax to the government is on the RBI. Okay, all these, the persons written on the right hand side, okay, all these persons are actually the recipient. All these persons are actually the recipient. Since we are doing reverse charge mechanism, the responsibility to pay the tax is on the recipient here. Then everyone here, last few points, okay, last few points, simple. Now, if there is an individual direct selling agents, okay, individual direct selling agents, these are just like agents who are, they collaborate with the banks, etc. Now, example, if I want to take a housing loan, okay, if I want to take a housing loan, I can either take it from the bank, financial institutions, etc., or I can contact a direct selling agent who provides me some discount in the interest rate. Okay, that discount is actually, he gives it out of his own commission which he gets from the bank. So he's kind of an intermediary between me and the bank. So if an individual direct selling agent other than body corporate partnership or LLP, okay, specifically if there is an individual DSA, can we say he is providing service to the banking company or NBFC, okay, he is getting customers like me, right? So can I say bank will get bank will pay the commission to that individual DSA on that GST liability. Liability to pay the GST is on the banking company or the NBFC. Only individual DSAs, not partnership or not companies or not LLP DSAs. Okay. Then after that, the next one, services provided by business facilitator. Business facilitator is just like a advisor. Okay, he is an advisor. He is not an agent. Okay, there is a difference. Okay, he is not an agent. He is the one who provides business advices to the banking companies. If a business facilitator is providing such services to the banking company would be paying something to the business facilitator. On that liability to pay the tax is on the banking company. Then next one is a little different. Everyone just pay attention here. Okay. If there is an agent of a business correspondent, first of all, there is something called as business correspondent. Okay, business correspondent is nothing but an extended arm of a banking company. Okay, let's say there is a banking company. Let's say, I'm just giving you a very basic example. Let's say there is a bank called as AU Finance Bank. Okay, newly started bank, etc. Till now, it does not have as many branches as SBI has. Okay, so what happens is, if AU Finance Bank wants to provide services in rural areas, but as of now, it does not have the capacity to open a branch there, so it can appoint a business correspondent, okay, which is just like an office of AU there, which is not a branch, but which is just like an office of AU there. Okay, now if we have opened an office there, okay, if we have opened an office there for which we are taking the services from the business correspondent. Now business correspondent will also have some agents within itself, okay, who are going to go from villages to villages and it is going to fetch the customers. So who is going to provide the services to whom? First of all, can I say, everyone here, okay, just try to understand. First of all, there is a bank, okay, then bank has a business correspondent, and then business correspondents are going to have some agents within itself. Agents are going to provide the service to the business correspondent, okay, and business correspondent is then going to provide the service to the bank. Which transaction is going to come under reverse charge mechanism? Only this transaction, that is when the service have been provided by agents of the business correspondent to the business correspondent. Can we say agents are going to get the commission, just like insurance company agents? Okay, so similarly, agents are going to get some commission in return for the services that they have provided. This is going to come under reverse charge mechanism. That is, the business correspondent is required to pay the tax under, business correspondent is required to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, please remember, okay, please remember, here the transaction, here we were talking about business facilitator and the bank. Here we are not talking about business correspondent and the bank. Here we are talking about agents of business correspondent and the business correspondent, right? Next one is your security services, security personnel, security services. Okay, if these have been provided by any person other than a body corporate, example, individual security agent, okay, or individual security, if I am providing some security services to any registered person for which I will be getting some amount, okay, liability to pay the tax is on that registered person. Okay, but here again important point, any person other than a body corporate. What if there is a security agency which is registered in the name of a company, then reverse charge is not applicable, then normal forward charge, because if it is a company, anyway it will be registered under GST, so no need to put reverse charge mechanism. Okay, let's say there is an individual watchman, individual security guard who is providing the service to a registered person, just like banks etc. have security persons. So in that case, the responsibility to pay the GST on that is on the registered person. Are you clear with this? Okay, here we are talking about a security guard who is not on the payroll, who is providing services in professional capacity. If he is on the payroll, then it becomes employer-employee relationship. Okay, but there is an exception, just like we had done it for the GTA. Do you recollect? If the services have been provided, to that government who is registered under GST only for the purpose of TDS, then in that case, reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. Means any person, individual security guard providing services to the government who is registered under GST only for the purpose of TDS, then RCM is not applicable. This individual person will have to get himself registered and then pay the tax, collect the tax and pay it to the government. Very clear with this? Yes? Okay. Then next point, everyone here, last few points, everyone, second last point. Chalo, services provided by way of renting of any motor vehicle. Okay. Now, renting of motor vehicle means what? First of all, who is providing this particular services? Any person other than a body corporate, any person other than a company, other than a body corporate who provides services to a body corporate. Non-body corporate providing renting of motor vehicle services to a body corporate of any such motor vehicle which is designed to carry passengers, where the cost of fuel is included in the consideration charged from the recipient. Means I am having a motor vehicle which I am giving on rent to a body corporate, and where I am going to take some money from that particular body corporate because I have provided my vehicle on rent, and in that consideration I am taking the rent charges also, plus I am taking the cost of fuel also. Okay, all inclusive, and I am giving it on rent to a body corporate. See, if I am giving it on rent to the body corporate, means I am not going to decide. Okay, the renter is not going to decide that from where to where the motor vehicle will go. No, that will be decided by that particular body corporate to whom I have given it on rent, right? In such cases, the responsibility to pay the tax is on the body corporate. Are you clear with this? Okay, now listen. Here there are two options available. Suppose if see this, everyone here. Further, RCM shall be applicable here only when the supplier does not. So, let's say I am renting my vehicle. If I am not ready to issue an invoice charging GST at the rate of 12%, means I am not a registered person. then in that case only RCM will be applicable. Okay, only in that case RCM will be applicable, which also means that I still have an option to get myself registered. Okay, I still have an option to get myself registered, and I can charge GST at the rate of 12%. If summary table, renting of motor vehicle, if supplier is other than body corporate, non-corporate providing services to the body corporate, this point, okay, then in that case RCM is applicable and the recipient shall pay GST at the rate of 5%, normal point. Okay, what if supplier is other than body corporate and even the recipient is other than body corporate? Can I say again RCM is not applicable? Okay, see, keep one thing in mind. RCM is applicable here when the services are provided by non-body corporate to a body corporate. Any cases other than this, that will fall under forward charge. Are you clear with this? Acha, what if the supplier is ready to get himself registered? Then in that case, anyway forward charge is applicable and the supplier will be liable to pay the GST. Are you clear with this? Okay. Now one more circular that they have given us here is renting of motor vehicle and transportation services. Okay, both of the services are different. Okay, renting of motor vehicle means what? This is my vehicle. Okay, I have given my vehicle. Okay, this is my vehicle. I have given my vehicle to a body corporate on rent, and I am telling you, you can use it in whatever way. You wish to use it. Okay, means the route, the timings, etc. can be decided by that particular body corporate. That is renting. Means the vehicle is at your own disposal. You can use it however you want to use. I have taken the rent charges from you also, and I have taken the cost of fuel also from you. But what happens in case of transportation of passengers? Transportation of passengers means vehicle is mine. Okay, I am just transporting the passengers from one place to another. Timings I will decide, route I will decide. Okay, I am just providing the service to you. That is, transportation of passengers is not included here in case of RCM. Only renting of motor vehicle is included here. That is given here in the circular. Are you clear with this? Okay, and the last point here is talking about lending of securities. Okay, lending of securities, which is under a scheme of SEBI. If the lender is providing the services to the borrower, for which the borrower gives money to the lender, in such case, the liability to pay the tax is on the borrower. Okay, just remember this. This is not relevant from exam point of view, but just remember this. Lender of any securities under SEBI. Okay, the transaction is done under the purview of SEBI. Are you clear with this? Yes, these were your transactions. These were some of your transactions for reverse charge mechanism of services, which was there under section number 9.3 and section number 5.3. 9.3 of the CGST Act and 5.3 of the IGST Act. Now, there are some additional services only from the point of view of IGST. So, now can you give me the section number? List of additional services under IGST means these are some additional services under section number 5.3, only 2 services. First one, if there is any service, okay, any service which is provided by a person located in non-taxable territory, any service provided by any person situated outside India, importation of services, okay, any particular service, and the recipient of the service is any person located in the taxable territory but other than NTOR, non-taxable online recipient. Okay, in the beginning of this particular chapter, they have given us the meaning of non-taxable online recipient. It is nothing but non-taxable online recipient is an unregistered person who is receiving some on OIDAR services, that is online information and database access or retrieval services. Unregistered person receiving OIDAR services. I am an unregistered person. I am situated here in India, but I am receiving OIDAR services from outside India. Okay, example, a normal small kid watching Netflix. Okay, he has taken Netflix subscription. Can we say that falls under OIDAR services? Yes. Online information where majority of the work is done online. Okay, So if that unregistered person, he has taken the subscription on Netflix, okay, that person becomes an non-taxable online recipient. Okay, so if any person located in a non-taxable territory is providing the services to a person located in taxable territory other than NTOR, okay, means service is being received from outside India and the service is being received in India by any person, okay. It is received by any particular person, but except for NTOR, except for non-taxable online recipient. Okay, let's say I want to design my website. This example I had already given you in the main lecture. I wanted to design my website. I have taken some designing services online. So that is importation of services taken from outside India, and it is received by any person located in the taxable territory. I am required to pay the taxes on it. Right, I am required to pay the GST on it under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, but what will happen? What will happen if the services have been received by NTOR, non-taxable online recipient? In case of Netflix, etc., they have to get themselves registered here in India and they have to pay the tax there. Reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. That we'll see in the subsequent chapters. Okay, so your conclusion, everyone: service provider is located outside India, service recipient is located here in India. Any services provided which is received by this person located in India except for NTOR, that will be taxable under reverse charge mechanism. That is, recipient here in India will be liable to pay GST on it to the government. Okay, similarly, next one, a specific service. Again, service is being provided. Again, it is importation of service. Okay, any services provided by a person located in a non-taxable territory, that is located outside India, by way of transportation of goods by a vessel. Okay, transportation of goods by a vessel from a place outside India up to a place here in India, that is up to customs station of clearance here in India. Goods are coming by way of vessel, he is providing us the transportation services. Then can we say we are supposed to pay the importer of the goods is required to pay the consideration for that particular services? The responsibility to pay the tax is on the importer who is located here in the taxable territory. Are you clear with this? Yes, and then the next point is talking about the GST rates in case of real estate, which is coming under section number 9.4. Okay, remember I told you for reverse charge mechanism, we have got section number 9.3 and section number 9.4. or 5.3 and 5.4, 9.3 and 5.3 that we have already completed. Okay, now we are going to section number 9.4. They have already told that 9.4 or 5.4. This is not relevant from exam point of view. It is just given here. Okay, this is just given here for the purpose of reference. I have discussed it in the full-fledged lectures. Here I will just give you an overview. This point is actually applicable only for the builders. Okay, it is applicable only for the builders. For them, the government has told that whenever these particular builders, okay, in case of real estate, whenever these builders are coming up with any new projects, okay, then in that case, GST will be payable. Okay, GST will be payable. They can pay on affordable houses. Okay, on affordable houses, whatever is the sale consideration, on that they can pay GST at the rate of 1%. In case of other, okay, in case of other houses, that is other than affordable houses, that luxury houses, etc., GST rate outward I am talking about, okay, their GST rate will be 5%. Can we say discounted rate is given to them? On affordable houses, GST payable at the rate of 1%. Other than affordable houses, GST payable at the rate of 5%. But these rates will be applicable only when ITC credit is not taken by you. Okay, input tax credit is not taken by that particular builder. Okay, now there are some conditions. First of all, they cannot take the input tax credit. Second condition is whatever are their inputs, okay, input of goods or whatever are their input of services, 80% of it should be from registered persons. Because if they purchase from unregistered persons, then anyway they will not be paying any GST on their inputs. So this is a loss of revenue to the government. So government, and anyway they are not eligible for any ITC. Okay, so their cost goes down. So, and anyway on their outward, the GST is also payable at very low rates. So they are telling that at least 80% of the inputs of these particular builders should be from registered persons. Means they will be paying GST on it, but there will be no input tax credit available on the same. Okay, exceptions are there. Exceptions, if they are taking any TDRs or if they are taking long-term lease on rent. Remember, I was giving my piece of land. Just now we studied in reverse charge mechanism. That can be taken from unregistered person. That is okay. Okay, means apart from FSI, apart from TDRs, apart from your long-term lease, apart from electricity, diesel, etc., which is not at all there under the purview of GST, apart from these, whatever are your inputs and input services, 80% of it should be purchased from registered person. If there is a shortfall, that is, if 75% let's say is purchased from registered person, then on the shortfall, that is balance 5%, the builder is required to pay GST on reverse charge basis. Okay, and that GST will be paid at the rate of 18%. Okay, so whatever is their inputs except for TDR, FSI, etc., 80% of it should be purchased from registered person. If less than 80% is purchased from registered person, then on the shortfall, the builder will be required to pay the GST at the rate of 18% under reverse charge mechanism. It will be paying. And will it be able to take the input tax credit? No, ITC was anyway not available. And if this input, okay, if in this 80%, if cement is also involved, which was purchased from unregistered persons, then in that case, GST will be paid on that at the rate of 28%. Just like normally it will be paid at the rate of 18%, but if cement is also purchased from unregistered person, then GST will be paid at the rate of 28% on the same. Okay, anyway, this is just for the purpose of information, not relevant from exam point of view. This was contained in section number 9.4, and with this our reverse charge mechanism provisions totally get over. Are you clear with this, everyone? Yes, what is important here in this reverse charge mechanism is who is the supplier, who is the recipient. Okay, so in this case, the recipient will be liable to pay the taxes, and in 2 or 3 points, in GTA point, first point was your GTA point, second point was your author point, and the third point was your security services point. Okay, mainly in these 3 points you had got exceptions which you need to remember. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay, let's start with section number 9.5, everyone, which was talking about e-commerce operator. We had seen in the beginning, then I told you that we are going to cover it separately. Now, first of all, what do you mean by this e-commerce operator? E-commerce operator is, okay, first let's try to understand the definition. E-commerce operator is a person, okay, or is an entity, basically, is any particular person who owns, who manages and who runs an electronic platform. Okay, in today's world, I can say electronic platform is nothing but an app or a website or something like that, and through its website, through its app, etc., it is providing some goods or services or both of it. Okay, now few examples which I will give you for this e-commerce operator. Okay, you must have been using normally Swiggy, Zomato, okay, Ola, Uber, okay, then your Make My Trip, GoIbibo, you must have used all these things. Okay, then to call a carpenter or to call a beautician, etc., generally we use Urban Company. Okay, so these are what? These are the persons. Can we say these are the platforms? Actually, they are not directly providing us some services. They are acting as an intermediary. Someone else is providing the services to us through this e-commerce operator. Yes, now we need to understand the GST liability in case of this e-commerce operator. Example, let's say when we order food, okay, when we order food from a particular restaurant, I'm ordering paneer makhni and naan, etc., kulcha, etc., from a particular restaurant. At that time, if I'm ordering it via Zomato, then in that case, who is responsible to collect the GST on it and who is responsible to pay it to the government? That is going to be discussed in section number 9.5. Okay, now let's try to understand, everyone, 4 transactions. Okay, can you see point number A to point number D here? Yes, these 4 transactions are going to get covered under your e-commerce operator. Here we are going to, till now under section number 9.5, only services have been notified here. First one, any services by way of transportation of passengers. Okay, any services provided by way of transportation of passengers, by way of your radio taxi, cabs and all those things. Example, Ola, Uber, etc. Can we say they are acting as e-commerce operator? Okay, the car, maybe it can so happen that the car belongs to the driver, to that particular person. Okay, he has got himself registered with Ola, Uber, and then we are availing the services. So actually the service provider is that car driver, but the services are being provided through an e-commerce operator called as Ola or Uber. Okay, similarly, services by way of providing accommodation, stay in hotel, inns, guest house, club, campsite or other commercial places which are meant for residential or lodging purpose. Okay, example, if let's say there is a particular hotel, okay, where I want to go and stay, okay, I want to go for my lectures, I want to stay there, okay. Now, I booked that particular hotel through Make My Trip, or I booked that particular hotel through booking.com or any particular this. So, here the service provider actually is the hotel, but who is the e-commerce operator here? E-commerce operator here is Make My Trip or GoIbibo. Okay, one small exception that is coming up here is, that is the person supplying such service, the hotel, through e-commerce operator is himself liable for registration under section 22. If the hotel itself, on the basis of its turnover, if it is required to get itself registered under GST, then it will not be called as e-commerce operator. Are you clear with this? Okay, let's say the turnover of the hotel itself is, just for example I am giving you, let's say its turnover is 1 crore. Then in that case, it will not come under e-commerce operator provisions. Then in that case, it will be directly considered as a service provider. Then the next one, third one, services by way of, this also I just discussed with you, services by way of housekeeping such as plumbing, carpentering, etc., where it itself is required to get registered. Let's say a carpenter is providing services at my house, but I called him through urban company. So can we say actual service provider is the carpenter, service recipient is me, but the e-commerce operator will be that urban company. Okay, so here the concept of e-commerce operator will be applicable, but the concept will not be applicable when the carpenter himself is liable to get himself registered under section number 22. And the last one is important, supply of restaurant service. A B point was different. B point was accommodation, that was stay thing, and your restaurant service is only food. Supply of restaurant service other than services supplied by a restaurant, eating joints, etc., located in specified premises. Okay, ma'am, what do you mean by specified premises? Everyone here, come down. Specified premises would mean premises providing accommodation service having declared tariff of any unit or accommodation above 7,500 per unit per day. Okay, now what are they trying to tell us here? First of all, if there is a particular restaurant, in my main lectures I had given Shiv Sagar, remember, I have to order something from Shiv Sagar. I am sitting here, I have ordered it via Zomato. Okay, if I have ordered it via Zomato will be called as the e-commerce operator. Actual service provider is Shiv Sagar and I become the service recipient, right? But this will not be applicable if I have ordered it from Red Chili's restaurant, which is located in Taj. Why? Because restaurant located in Taj is, can we call it as restaurant located in a specified premises? Because Taj is offering rooms, okay, where the tariff per day per unit is about 7,500. So can we call it as a big restaurant? Yes. So concept of e-commerce operator will not be applicable in case of big restaurants. In that case, what will happen? In that case, the responsibility to collect and pay the tax lies not on the e-commerce operator but on that big person. Are you clear with this? Okay, 4 points. Everyone, I am repeating here. First point was transportation of passengers, Ola, Uber. Okay, second point was accommodation in hotels. Okay, Make My Trip, etc. Third point was housekeeping, carpentry services, beautician services, etc. Urban company. And the last one was your supply of restaurant services, except for the restaurants which are situated in the specified premises. Okay, any services provided through eco. Okay, these 4 services provided through eco will be falling under section number 9.5. Ma'am, what is so special about these 4 pointers that we have studied? In all these 4 pointers, even though the actual service provider is that driver, or actual service provider is let's say that hotel, or actual service provider is that carpenter, or actual service provider is that particular restaurant, Shiv Sagar, but for the purpose of section 9.5, the responsibility to collect the tax and to pay it to the government lies on the e-commerce operator, who is the middle person here. Are you clear with this? So person liable to pay GST will be the e-commerce operator. Okay, if the e-commerce operator is located here in India, example your Ola, okay, that is located here in India, so that becomes the person who is liable to pay the tax. If eco does not have any physical presence, means the app is a foreign app, okay, then in that case, there should be a person appointed called as person liable to pay the tax is the person who is representing the e-commerce operator. There will be some person who will be representing that e-commerce operator here in India for tax purpose. So he will be liable to pay the tax. But what if it does not have a physical presence here in India, plus it does not even have a representative here in India? No problem. Please appoint a person here in India who will be liable to pay the tax. So in any case, eco or his representative or the person liable to pay the tax, that person will have to collect the taxes from the customer and will have to pay it to the government. Are you clear with this, everyone? Yes. Okay. So this was all about your e-commerce operator. So did you understand the diagram here, everyone? Okay, let's say a driver is there, driver with his car is there, Ola Uber is there, and we are there. Okay, service provider is this driver, we are the service recipient. Okay, but the services are being provided through an e-commerce operator, that is through an intermediary. So section 9.5 says this is a specified service coming in those 4 services. So this Ola Uber will be considered as the e-commerce operator, and it will be its liability to collect the taxes from the government, from the customer, and to pay it to the government. Are you clear with this? Yes. Now, there were a few circulars, few clarifications which were given in case of e-commerce operator, specifically for that restaurant service. Okay, specifically for that. What did we study for restaurant service? For supply of restaurant services. Shiv Sagar example that we had taken. Okay, except for that Red Chili's restaurant, that was a big restaurant located in Taj, because that was situated in specified premises, it will not be called as. In that case, there will be no concept of e-commerce operator that will be applicable. Okay, now see, what are they trying to tell us here? Can we say the e-commerce operator will be paying the GST. Okay, it will collect the taxes and it will pay the GST to the government, and it will show, can we say it is going to show that as, now that is, there will be some sales amount that it will have to show on which it will be paying the GST. So that will be shown in his return called as GSTR 3B, where in GSTR 3B, actually it is not the eco sale. Please try to understand that eco is acting as an intermediary for which it is going to get a commission. Okay, but for the purpose of payment of taxes, okay, only for the purpose of payment of taxes, it will show it as outward taxable supplies in its form return, that is GSTR 3B. Okay, it will not be shown as input services. No, it is not. There is no reverse charge mechanism that is getting applicable here. Okay, here there is a concept of e-commerce operator under section number 9.5, where it is required to collect the taxes from the customer and pay it to the government. So this, the amount on which it has collected the taxes, that will be shown as outward supply in its form number GSTR 3B. Okay, now listen, later on we are going to study a concept called as TCS, which is normally applicable for e-commerce operator, but here they have told that if the e-commerce operator is liable under section number 9.5, okay, if he is liable under section number 9.5, then TCS provisions will not be applicable, and vice versa. That is, either 9.5 provisions will be applicable or TCS provisions will be applicable. So for these 4 services, the 4 services that we studied, can we say e-commerce, section 9.5 provisions are applicable? If 9.5 provisions are applicable, then the eco is not responsible to collect any TCS in respect of the same. Are you clear with this? Acha, can we say ecos are anyway registered under GST? Okay, we'll study it again in the registration chapter. Ecos are anyway registered. Okay, irrespective of section number 9.5, ecos are anyway registered under GST as the e-commerce operator. So they have already taken registration from the GST department. They need not take a separate registration for the purpose of section 9.5. Okay, they need not take a separate registration for the purpose of section 9.5, that is told here. Okay, now irrespective of the fact whether Shiv Sagar is registered or Shiv Sagar is unregistered, same example I am continuing. Okay, irrespective of that, provisions of section 9.5 will be applicable if you are falling under that restaurant services. Okay, so registered, unregistered, doesn't matter. Then when you are calculating something called as aggregate turnover, okay, whenever you are calculating the aggregate turnover, whenever Shiv Sagar is calculating its aggregate turnover, it will include, can I say now Shiv Sagar can do direct sales also? Okay, we can go and have food in Shiv Sagar, we can give order on phone also. That is not done through e-commerce operator. So that will be aggregate, that will be included in the turnover of Shiv Sagar. Plus whatever services Shiv Sagar has provided through Zomato. Okay, even that value of sales will be included in its aggregate turnover. Just now I told you na, eco will show it in its sales only for the purpose of payment of taxes. But actually it is whose sales? Actually it is the sales of the restaurant. Are you clear with this? Okay. And e-commerce operator are not the recipient of the restaurant service. It's not that Shivsagar is providing the service to eco. No, Shivsagar is providing the service to the customer. So this will not be considered as an inward supply for the e-commerce operator. We are repeating this point. Okay, this is not called as, for Zomato, it is not called as purchases of food and then delivering it to the customer. No, it is not that. Right? Acha, then after that, who issues the invoice in such cases? This you should be knowing. This you should be knowing. Everyone, if you have traveled and if you have ever gone to the app of Ola, Uber or Zomato, after our journey is completed or after the food delivery is completed, after some time the invoice is generated. Okay, that invoice is not given by the restaurant or not given by the car driver. That is given by the e-commerce operator. So the responsibility to issue the invoice is on the e-commerce operator. Are you clear with this? Okay. Then another thing, can e-commerce operator, now e-commerce operator is collecting the taxes from us, from the service recipient and paying it to the government. Okay. That is the outward supply. Okay. This tax has to be paid in cash. Okay. This tax has to be paid in cash. Means it cannot utilize any ITC for paying it. Okay. Another thing, is Zomato also providing some services to the restaurant? Yes, example, it would have given some listing services. Okay, if you want to get your restaurant listed on my platform, you have to pay this listing fee, you have to pay this platform fee, etc. Okay, so can we say Zomato is also giving sales to the restaurant? Means it is also doing sales, it is also providing some service to the restaurant for which it is charging listing fee. On that GST is payable. Okay, that GST payable, for it, can it utilize the input tax credit? It can. Will Zomato be incurring some expenses also? Example, it will have to set up its technology, etc., for which it will be availing some IT services, on which it will be having some input tax credit. Can it take that input tax credit? Yes, it can take that. It can avail that input tax credit. It can use it against the GST liability, but not against the GST liability of section number 9(5). So Zomato will be having two types of sales. Okay, one is the sales from the customer. Okay, on which it will be collecting the taxes and paying it to the government in cash. Okay, no GST credit can be used for this. This has to be paid in cash. But can we say Zomato would be having other sales also, other advertisement income, etc. also, on which GST liability would be there? For that, it can avail the input tax credit. Are you clear with this? Okay, see here it is given. No ITC could be utilized for payment of GST on restaurant services supplied through e-commerce operator. And then the next one, last point here. Let's say now what do you mean by, first of all, restaurant service? Restaurant service is where something is cooked and then it is given it to you. Okay, now sometimes it happens that we order, let's say I have ordered paneer makhani and kulcha, plus I have ordered, let's say for example, some packaged canned juice, etc., something like that. Okay, so now here the section 9(5) provisions are applicable only for the restaurant service. Okay, now if I have ordered this paneer makhani plus kulcha plus this canned juice from Shivsagar via Zomato, can we say 9(5) will be applicable only on that cooked food thing, that is kulcha and the paneer makhani, but it will not be applicable on the pack because that is going to be just sold, that is just sale of goods kind of a thing here. So in this case they are telling that if 9(5) is not applicable, then what is Zomato's responsibility here? Zomato's responsibility is just to issue the invoice only of that kulcha and paneer makhani. Okay, but invoice for that canned juice, that will be issued directly by the restaurant to me. Okay, so that is not a restaurant service which is provided through e-commerce operator, right? That is a service that is directly provided by the restaurant to me. So for that, the invoice will also be issued by that restaurant. Are you clear with this, everyone? Yes, so these were some clarifications that were given. Anyway, what you are required to remember here specifically is these 4 pointers and the person who is liable to pay the taxes in case of e-commerce operator. This needs to be remembered specifically. Are you clear till here? Yes, this was all about your section number 9(5). That is your e-commerce operator. 9(3), 9(4) reverse charge mechanism, that we have already completed. 9(5) is about e-commerce operator, that also we have completed. Next thing, I am leaving it up to you, classification under GST. Remember, we had done something called as HSN and SAC in the beginning, in the framework of GST, I think there we had done. So they have just done the They have just discussed about it. One time read, please don't read it one day before the exams. Okay, and then the last part here, that is section number 10, which talks about composition scheme. Okay, can we start with it, everyone? Chalo. Now section number 10. Okay, section number 10 of the CGST Act, that is composition levy. Section number 7, supply. Section number 8, composite and mixed supply. Section number 9, charge. Yes, or we can say various different sections that we did. Section number 9.1 and 9.2 was talking about, 9.1 was talking about CGST, IGST rate. 9.2 was talking about no GST on few things. 9.3 and 9.4 is talking about your reverse charge mechanism, and 9.5 was talking about your e-commerce operator. Now going on to the last section for the chapter. Yes, everyone. Now, first of all, composition scheme, a very basic introduction thing we had already seen in the first chapter. Composition scheme was introduced for the small taxpayers. Okay, less issues, less burden, and all these things, right? So, what happened in this case? The composition levy is such a method. Composition levy is such an alternative tax. It is not compulsory. It is an option for the taxpayers that if their turnover does not exceed a particular threshold limit, means they are small taxpayers or they are small business persons, then in that case they can opt for this composition scheme and they can pay taxes at a very lower rate. Okay, they will not be eligible for input tax credit, because if we are allowing them to pay tax at very small rates, then input tax credit benefit will not be available, and plus they cannot be engaged into exports, they cannot be engaged into interstate supplies, because you are telling now you are small. Okay, so you should be engaged only in your intrastate supplies. So we will allow you, if your turnover does not exceed a particular limit, then we will allow you to adopt this composition levy. Are you clear with this? And yes, obviously you should also not be engaged in, if you are a service provider, if you are a taxpayer, then in that case you should not be engaged in supplying alcoholic liquor for human consumption and all those things. Okay, now see what are the terms and conditions given in this case. First of all, let's see the section numbers, everyone. You have got two sections. First of all, section number 10.1 and 10.2, which talks about composition scheme, which says about composition scheme for goods, and then section number 10.2a, which refers to composition scheme for services. 10.2a was inserted later. Okay, this was introduced later. Now, what are they trying to tell us here? Under section number 10.1. Okay, just try to understand here. I was just searching for the summary that I have. Yes. Now, here they are telling that if you are engaged in supply of goods. Okay, if you are engaged in supply of goods, that is in any of these three cases. Can you see? Yes, I have got my table. That is, if you are a manufacturer, okay, if you are a manufacturer other than manufacturing of some items, or if you are a trader, okay, either you are a manufacturer except manufacturer of some specific items, or if you are a trader of some goods, or if you are a supplier making some specific services, that is restaurant and outdoor catering services. Okay, these three persons are covered in section number 10.1 and section number 10.2. Okay, these three persons, which three persons did I mention? I mentioned about manufacturer other than manufacturer of specified goods, then trader, and then restaurant service provider. These three persons will be considered as if they are involved in composition scheme for goods. Okay, these three persons will be involved in composition scheme for goods. And then in section number 10.2a, what happened was earlier only section 10.1 and 10.2 was there, where they said that composition scheme benefit is available to a trader, it is available to a manufacturer, and it is available to a restaurant service provider. Okay, now problem happened with whom? Now problem happened with other service providers, because in the first case only restaurant service provider was included. What about other service providers? So no benefit was extended to them. So government introduced this section number 10.2a, where they said that okay, if you are providing other services, that is obviously other than restaurant services, then and if you fulfill the necessary conditions, then even you can opt for this composition scheme under section 10.2a. Okay, but the most important thing here is the turnover limit. That is, this scheme will be applicable to you. This scheme will be applicable to you only if your turnover does not exceed a particular threshold limit. Okay, ma'am, what is that particular threshold limit? See, what are they telling everyone here? Turnover limit for composition levy, aggregate turnover. You have to check the aggregate turnover for the preceding financial year. Okay, I will tell you the meaning of aggregate turnover. Don't worry about that. Okay, now in case of goods, okay, now listen here. In case of goods means we are talking about section number 10.1 and 10.2 where 3 items were considered: manufacturer, trader and restaurant services. And for services means we are talking about section number 10.2a. Okay, my last year turnover should not have exceeded rupees 1.5 crore. If my last year turnover did not exceed, aggregate turnover did not exceed 1.5 crore, then in the current year at least I am eligible. At least I am eligible for composition scheme. Okay, now then what they said was, they introduced one more point here, that instead of 1.5 crore, the limit will be 75 lakhs for some of the special category states. Okay, now which are these category states? Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Meghalaya, Manipur, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Nagaland and Tripura. For these particular states, okay, these are your special category states. For these states, in the last year, your aggregate turnover should not have exceeded 75 lakhs. Then in the current year, you are eligible for composition scheme. Okay, now you should get a doubt, ma'am, Assam, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu Kashmir, even these are coming under your special category states also, but you have not included it in the limit of 75 lakhs. Yes, I agree, because these 3 states were not given the point of 75 lakhs. So for these 3 states, Assam, like apart from the other states, Assam, Himachal Pradesh and your Jammu and Kashmir, they can opt for your composition scheme if their aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year has not exceeded rupees 1.5 crore. Are you clear with this? Yes. Now, for services, okay, services for all the states, there is no bifurcation. Acha, it's written for all the states, the aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year should not have exceeded rupees 50 lakhs. If it has not exceeded rupees 50 lakhs in the preceding financial year, means you're a small person, then in the current year, you are eligible for this composition scheme. Are you clear with this? Okay, so broadly we can say for section 10.1 and 10.2, the limit is rupees 1.5 crore aggregate turnover of the preceding financial year, and for 10.2a it is rupees 50 lakhs. Okay, but for the goods category, but for the first category, for special category states, those the Arunachal Pradesh and etc., for them the limit is going to be 75 lakhs. Okay, now let us understand how do we determine this aggregate turnover, because we get questions on this also. Can we see, everyone? Can we understand this? Okay, now see, they are telling that while calculating this threshold of 1.5, 75 lakhs and 50 lakhs, see what are the inclusions in the aggregate turnover and what are the exclusions from the same. What all things are included? First of all the taxable supplies. Okay, all the exempt supplies are also included. Exports and interstate supplies are also to be included. Now, I told you that if that person is eligible, if that person wants to come under composition scheme, he should not be engaged in exports and interstate supply. Yes, but this we are calculating of the last year. If last year he did export and interstate, then that is okay. But in the current year, he will be opting for composition scheme. In current year, he should not be doing export or interstate supply. Okay, so this we are including of the last year just to check my aggregate turnover of the preceding financial year. So, taxable supply, exempt supply, export supplies, interstate supplies. Okay, of all my entities registered under the same PAN, that will be aggregated. Okay, that will be aggregated. That's how you get your aggregate turnover of the preceding financial year. Okay, but it will exclude what? But it will exclude all the GST taxes. Okay, all the inward supplies on which he has paid tax on reverse charge, because that is not his turnover, na, that was my purchases on which I was just liable to pay tax under RCM. So this is not my outward supply. So value of inward supply on which I paid tax. You paid tax on RCM, that does not mean that is your outward supply. So that will not be considered. And yes, this one, value of exempt supply of services provided by way of deposits, loan or advances, in so far as the consideration is represented by way of interest or discount. Example, if we have given any loans, okay, in my turnover, means it is my outward supply, I have given any loan on which I am going to get a consideration in the form of interest. We are going to study this in the exemption chapter. This is an exempt supply. Normally the exempt supply was included here. Okay, but this particular exempt supply of giving any such services by giving deposits, loans, advances, where the consideration is in the form of interest or discount, even that has to be excluded. Okay, this you have to calculate for the entire preceding financial year right from 1st of April of the last year. Okay, even if in the last year you were not liable to get yourself registered, you got registered maybe in the middle of the year or something like that, doesn't matter. Whatever was your turnover from 1st April, even that will be included. So you have to calculate it from 1st April till 31st March of the last year, and that's how you get the aggregate turnover. And ma'am, what is the relevance of this aggregate turnover? The relevance of this aggregate turnover was to check whether I am eligible for composition scheme in the current year or not. Okay, now let's say everyone here, let's say one of my offices is in Maharashtra and one of my offices is in Arunachal Pradesh. Possible? One office in Maharashtra, one office in Arunachal Pradesh. Can we say at least one of the offices in Arunachal Pradesh? Then in that case, 75 lakh rupees limit will be applicable to me, not 1.5 crore. Are you clear with this? Okay. Okay. Now listen. Now let's try to understand what benefit are you getting. Now last year, if my aggregate turnover did not exceed those limits, then in the current year, I am eligible for composition scheme. Eligible for composition scheme means what benefit is available? First of all, can we say you can pay tax at a very, very lower rates? Yes, manufacturers can pay tax at the rate of 1% of the turnover in the state or union. Every office will pay its own taxes. So for this one particular state, example, office in Maharashtra, office in Gujarat, for example. So Maharashtra office will calculate its turnover, okay, into 1%. Gujarat office will calculate its turnover. And yes, for calculating the applicability of composition scheme, we check the aggregate turnover total. Okay, if the aggregate turnover is within the limits, then in that case, both the offices will opt for composition scheme. It's not that Maharashtra can opt for composition, Gujarat will not offer composition. No, it cannot happen. या तो सब लोग opt करो या तो कोई भी opt नहीं करेगा. Very clear with this? Okay, so 1% of the turnover, total turnover. Okay, total turnover means your taxable supply, your exempt supply, your export supply, or not export supply, because export supply will not happen here. Okay, excluding all the GST and all those things, 1% of that, 0.5 if CGST, SGST, etc. Right? Then, now in manufacturing, some things are prohibited. Okay, that is other than ice cream and other edible whether or not containing cocoa, pan masala, tobacco, fly ash bricks, and all these things, manufacturing of these things is prohibited. That is, if you are engaged into this, you are not eligible for composition scheme. Okay, manufacturing of this is prohibited. Trading of this is not prohibited. Okay, manufacturing of this is prohibited. Trading of this is not prohibited. Just keep that in mind. So, if you are a manufacturer eligible for composition scheme, in the current year, you can opt for composition scheme, and the tax that you will be paying is equal to 1% of the total turnover in that particular state or union territory. If you are a trader, same, 1% tax will be applicable, but 1% of the turnover of taxable supplies only. Okay, above it was 1% of the turnover. Now it is 1% only of the taxable supply, means exempt supply will not be included here. So, can we say turnover got reduced? Okay, if turnover got reduced and even the tax rate is only 1%, very, very beneficial. Yes, and then the next one, that is restaurant services, because we are covering section number 10.1 and 10.2. Restaurant services, they can pay tax at the rate of 5% of the total turnover. Okay, so in case of manufacturing and in case of restaurant service, whatever percentage, 1% and 5% that is applicable, that is on the total turnover in that particular state or union territory. But when we are talking about trading, okay, when we are talking about trading, then it will be 1% of the taxable supply only. Okay, we have got questions in this on this in the question bank. Please refer that. And then section number 10.2a. Do you recollect what was section number 10.2a? What was section number 10.2a? 10.2a was talking about that services other than restaurant supply. In that case, 6% will be the rate of tax that will be applicable on the total turnover. Are you clear till here, everyone? Okay. Now, one important thing that is we need to calculate is turnover in that particular state or union territory. See, one thing that we calculated was aggregate turnover. Okay, aggregate turnover we took of the preceding financial year. Aggregate turnover we took of the preceding financial year, in which we included taxable supply, exempt supply, export, interstate. We excluded reverse charge mechanism supplies, inward supplies. We excluded the GST, and we excluded that loans, deposit, advances. That was for calculating the purpose of, and that was for all the entities registered under the same PAN. Now, for the purpose of paying the taxes, this 1%, 5%, 6%, we have to take the turnover in our state or union territory, right? Except for trader. For trader, it is 1% of the taxable supply only. Now, let's understand what do you mean by this turnover in the state or union territory. Same, all taxable supplies and exempt supplies will be included, but exempt supply will not be included for the purpose of trader. Yes, here export and interstate will not be there because otherwise you won't be eligible for composition scheme at all. What will be excluded? GST taxes will be excluded. Inward supplies on which we paid tax under reverse charge, that will be excluded. Loans, deposit, advances where the consideration is in the form of interest or discount, that will be excluded. Yes, and one more thing that will be excluded is the value of supply. Current year, value of supply from 1st April till the date we became liable for registration. Okay, this has to be excluded for the purpose of payment of taxes. Okay, now I'll just explain you with the help of a simple example, everyone here. Let's say in the last year, okay, let's say I got registered in the current year itself. Okay, let's say I got incorporated in the current year itself. Okay, my turnover for the month of April is equal to 10 lakhs. Okay, then my turnover for the month of May is equal to 10 lakhs. So can I say now from June onwards, okay, let's say the registration threshold for me is equal to 20 lakh rupees. Can I say from June onwards I have to get myself registered, right? I have to get myself registered. Let's say my turnover in the month of June is equal to 50 lakh rupees. Okay, just try to understand everyone. My aggregate turnover of the preceding financial year was 0. So in the current year, am I eligible for composition scheme? Answer is yes. Okay, I got incorporated in April. I got registered under GST in June. Okay, I got registered under GST in June. Can I say till 20 lakh, anyway I am not required to pay any tax. So 0% tax, 0% means nothing is required to be paid till then. Okay, from June onwards, now I have to pay the tax under composition scheme. Right now, in this case, now the tax will be paid. Now the tax will be paid on this 50 lakhs, or will the tax be paid on the entire 70 lakhs? The tax will be paid only on this 50 lakhs. Means which turnover did I exclude for the purpose of payment of tax? I excluded the turnover from 1st of April till the date I became liable for registration. Again, I'm telling you, this 10 lakh will be included in my aggregate turnover. Okay, but it will not be included in my turnover for the purpose of payment of tax. Why to pay tax on that? Because I was not at all eligible to pay the tax during that time because I was not registered. Are you clear with this, everyone? Yes. In detail, in depth, we have already discussed it in our main lectures in a very beautiful manner. Yes. So this was all about our composition scheme. Yes, where we studied about section number 10.1, section number 10.2 and section number 10.2a. Now a few simple points, few other points. First of all, the persons who are not eligible, persons who cannot come under composition scheme, I hope you should be knowing it. First of all, any particular person who is engaged into supply of such goods or services which is not liable to tax. If not liable to tax, you cannot come under composition scheme. If that person is doing some interstate supply, not eligible. If that particular person is supplying goods through e-commerce operator who is collecting tax at source. Okay, as of now, just remember that if that particular person, if that particular restaurant, for example, is providing services through eco who is collecting the TCS, then that particular restaurant cannot come under composition scheme. Manufacturing of some prohibited products, that is anyway not allowed. If you are engaged into that product's manufacturing, composition scheme is not eligible, but trading of that particular product is allowed. If that person is a non-resident taxable person or a casual taxable person, he cannot come under composition scheme. And if he is providing other services apart from restaurant services, then he cannot come under 10.1 and 10.2. But can that person come under section number 10.2a? Yes, example, beautician is there or carpenter services, etc. are there. They cannot come under 10.1 or 10.2, but they can come under section number 10.2a, and same pointers are applicable for the services point also. Are you clear with this? Acha, now listen, interstate supply is not allowed, right? But can they have interstate purchases? Yes, interstate purchases is allowed, no problem in that. Okay, one more thing, you must have heard about nowadays trending thing, cloud kitchens. Okay, cloud kitchens where they just have the kitchen where they cook the food, they do not have sitting, etc. Even that is covered under restaurant services. Very clear with this? Okay, one more important statement. Trading of ice cream, trading of edible oil, edible ice, allowed or not allowed for composition scheme? That is allowed, but manufacturing of that is not allowed. Okay, now listen everyone here. There is something called as marginal supply of services. Okay, there is something called as marginal supply of services. Now, people who are there under section number 10.1 and 10.2, can I say either they are traders or they are manufacturers or they are engaged into restaurant services, right? Traders, manufacturers or restaurant services. Okay, they are registered under 10.1. Now, what if they want to provide some marginal services? Okay, means their main business is of trading, manufacturing and restaurant services, but they want to provide some small quantum of services. Can they do so? Answer is yes, they are allowed to provide some marginal services, but the value of marginal services should be within a limit. Okay, what is that limit? That limit is 10% of the total turnover in that particular state, but in the preceding financial year. My state turnover, total turnover, okay, my state total turnover, but of the preceding financial year multiplied by 10% or rupees 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. This is what? Okay, 10% of the preceding financial year's turnover in our state or union territory or rupees 5 lakh, whichever is higher. This is the value of marginal supply of services that you can do along with supply under section 10.1 and 10.2 to avail the composition scheme benefit on this also. Okay, on this also. Achha, but what if this is exceeded? What if this is exceeded? Then in that case, your marginal supply of services cannot be done and you will not be eligible for composition scheme. And what if you are there under 10.2a? If you are there under 10.2a means in what business are you engaged into? You are providing some services, right? You are providing some services. Then in that case, can you marginally provide some goods? Ulta. Okay, can you marginally provide some goods? Answer is yes, but for that there is no limit prescribed. Okay, till now there is no limit prescribed for that. That's why it is not mentioned here. But 10.1 and 10.2 people can do some marginal supply of services, but up to a particular limit. Are you clear till here, everyone? Yes, examples etc. are given here. Now listen, some terms and conditions for this composition levy. Last few points, okay? Some terms and conditions for this composition levy. First of all, he should not be engaged into manufacturing of those notified products, etc. Right? Next, if suppose there is some inward supply, okay, if suppose there is some purchases on which he is liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, then he will have to pay tax. Then he cannot say I am a composition scheme person, RCM is not applicable to me. No, he will have to pay tax on RCM, and that too at full rate, not at 1%, 5% and 6%. And can he take the credit of that? No, he cannot take the credit of the same. Okay, then he should not be a NRTP or a casual taxable person. On the bill that he is issuing, now listen, he cannot issue a tax invoice, right? Because he cannot collect any taxes. He will not be collecting any taxes. He has to pay out of his own income, right? So he will be issuing a document called as bill of supply. He will be issuing a document called as bill of supply, and the bill of supply will include the words, okay, it will include the words called as composition taxable person. That is, the purchaser should know that we have purchased the goods from composition taxable person, right? And everywhere in his principal place of business or additional place of business, in his branch offices, etc., everywhere it should be mentioned that this particular assessee is a composition taxable person. Are you clear with this? Yes. Now listen. The example which I gave you, April turnover 10 lakhs, May turnover 10 lakhs, June turnover 50 lakhs, etc. Now, let's say if this particular person applies for registration on 1st of June or on 31st of May, if that particular person applies for first time registration and he wants to go for composition scheme, means first time he is getting registered and that too as a composition person, then in that case, he can apply. He can, means earlier he was unregistered, now he wants to become a registered person. He can apply in this particular form number on the GST portal, and from the day his registration becomes effective, from that day he will be liable to pay tax under composition scheme. And yes, one more important thing, everyone here, till what amount can he pay tax under composition scheme? Okay, last year turnover we checked, it was 1.5 crore. In the current year also, till the time his turnover does not exceed 1.5 crore, Okay, in the current year, till the time his aggregate turnover, right from 1st April, if his turnover does not exceed 1.5 crore, till that time he will be paying taxes at the lowest rate, at the low rates, means whatever is the rate applicable. Once his total turnover exceeds 1.5 crore or 75 lakhs or 50 lakhs as the case may be, then in the current year also he will have to start paying taxes at normal rates, right? So the date from when his registration became effective, from that day he will be registered under GST under composition scheme. Okay, now let's say earlier he was registered but as a normal taxpayer, but now he wants to convert himself into a composition person. Then again he will have to file an intimation online on the GST portal to the government. But this intimation should be filed prior to or before the commencement of the financial year. I want to go under composition scheme from financial year 23-24. Okay, before 23-24 starts, before that I have to submit this intimation, and from 1st April 23-24 you can get yourself registered as a composition person. Okay, so see the difference, everyone here. See in the summary diagram, can you see the difference? The person who is applying for registration for the first time, he can opt for, he can apply for registration under composition scheme at any time, and the day when his registration becomes effective, from that particular day, he will be considered as a registered person. And let's say if that person was already a registered person, now he wants to just come under composition scheme, then he can opt for composition levy from 1st April of any particular year, but intimation for that should be filed before commencement of that financial year. Government should be knowing beforehand that you are going to go under composition scheme. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Now listen. Now 2 pointers are coming up here. Now, can I say if in my current year aggregate turnover exceeds the limit, exceeds the threshold limit, then I will have to withdraw from the composition scheme and I will have to come into the regular scheme, right? Then in such a case, right from the day my threshold exceeds, okay, right from the day my aggregate turnover threshold exceeds, from that particular day, I will have to pay the taxes at normal rates. I will have to start issuing the tax invoices. I can start collecting the tax, and I will now have to pay the taxes to the government. And within 7 days of this limit getting exceeded, okay, within 7 days, I will have to file an intimation to the government that I have withdrawn from this composition scheme. Are you clear with this? Okay, what will be the effective date? What will be the effective date of withdrawal? The date which I mentioned in that intimation. Okay, let's say on 1st August, my turnover gets exceeded. So, I will have to file it within 7 days of 1st August. But what date will I write it in that intimation? I will write 1st August as the date in the intimation, that from this day my turnover has exceeded and now I wish to go under the normal scheme. Okay, so here basically my conditions of that 1.5 crore etc. I have exceeded, therefore I have to leave composition scheme. Acha, can I leave it voluntarily also? Can I normally go from composition scheme to normal scheme also? Government says yes, welcome, no problem in that. So, we will have to file an application before the withdrawal to the government, and whatever date we write in the application, that date will be the effective date of withdrawal. Your 7 days condition etc. is not applicable. 7 days was applicable only when the conditions, when your threshold limit exceeds. Okay, but you have to just inform it to the government. And the last case, let's say you are there under composition scheme, okay, or let's say you are getting registered under composition scheme, then the officers, okay, tax officers, IDT officers, GST officers can issue a show cause notice to you and ask you, give us the reasons why we should take you under composition scheme. Means they are not satisfied with your application, means they are not satisfied that you are a small person. Okay, means they are not satisfied that you are a small person, so you have to give the proper explanations etc. to those officers, and then the final decision making power will be with those particular officers whether they will give you the registration under composition scheme or not. Yes, and then the next point which I told you, if aggregate turnover, when you were checking for the last year, you checked it for all the entities registered under the same PAN. Okay, if that threshold is not exceeded, then you can opt for composition scheme. All the entities will have to opt for composition scheme. Okay, Mumbai branch, Gujarat branch, one cannot say I will opt, another will not opt. No, if all of you want to opt, all of you opt. If none of you want to opt, none of you will opt. Okay, but it's not that I will opt, I will not opt. Very clear with this? Okay, then composition scheme person. Can he collect the tax from the customer? No, he will just collect the value of goods from the customer. Tax he has to pay from his own pocket, and he cannot take the credits. Okay, he cannot take the input tax credit. Therefore, the credit chain breaks there. And last, if you do any ghapla, okay, if you do like if he is not eligible for composition scheme, still he has just paid the tax as per composition scheme, lower tax as per composition scheme, then he will be liable for penalty under section number 73 and 74 of the CGST Act. Are you clear till here, everyone? This was an overview. This was a super quick revision of the composition scheme. Please make sure that you try questions on this composition scheme. Everything will be crystal clear once you do that. Yes. Okay, so this was all about your charge of GST chapter. Yes, whenever you're studying, okay, whenever you're studying, if you feel the chapter was a lengthy one, please make sure that you cut it into parts. Okay, first part, the basic part. Second part, reverse charge mechanism, one entire thing. Next part, e-commerce operator. And the last part is composition levy. Yes, I hope this video is helping you. These videos are helping you for the purpose of your final revision, super quick revision. Do let me know in the comments. Yes. Okay, so let's start with the amendments of charge of GST, statutory amendments which have been introduced and made applicable by the ICAI. In charge chapter, basically basic part of the chapter we have already studied. Now in the amendments, yes, let's start with the amendments. Now the first very small amendment which is coming up is in section number 5 of the IGST Act. Okay, do you recollect this particular table where we had done corresponding provisions where they're under CGST and IGST? Okay, now there we had studied that in case of IGST, IGST will be applicable. It is a tax which will be applicable on all the interstate supply of goods and services except for that alcoholic liquor, etc., on the value which will be determined as per the CGST law, but maximum rate will be 40. In that CGST it was 20 plus 20, here it was maximum 40. Okay, now see what is the amendment here. Now here they are telling that, one more thing that we had studied, that whenever we are importing the goods, okay, whenever we are importing the goods in India, at that time, the value which is determined as per the customs law, okay, the value which is determined as per the customs law, on that your customs duty will also be applicable, and plus your IGST will also be applicable. Okay, now this is what we had studied. Right, now see what is the amendment that is coming up here. Provided that integrated tax, that is the IGST, on goods other than the goods as may be notified by the government on recommendation on council, means they are telling that on some goods there is an exception. Okay, on some goods there will be an exception on which customs will not be applicable. Okay, now just try to understand this. Provided that IGST on other than the goods as may be notified by the government on recommendation of council. Example, intangible goods, import of specified actionable claim of online money gaming. These will be taxed under IGST as import of goods without applicability of custom duty. Okay, now see what are they trying to say. Let me just simplify it for you. Whenever you are importing any goods into India, normally at that time customs duty is also applicable plus IGST is also applicable. This was by default provision. Okay, now they are telling that there will be some goods on which customs duty will not be applicable, but IGST will be applicable. Okay, example that they have given here, two examples that they have given here, as you can see here. One is intangible goods and the second one is import of specified actionable claim of online money gaming. Okay, now listen. Intangible goods. Can we say when the goods are intangible, then there cannot be any physical import of the goods? If there is no physical import of the goods, then at that time, can we say customs will not be applicable? If customs is not applicable, then can we say at least IGST will be applicable? This is what they are trying to say. If you want, I'll just read this conclusion again. That is, these will be taxed under IGST as import of goods without applicability of custom duty. Okay, because example, let's say it is intangible goods, then custom clearance will not happen for that. So customs is not applicable, but still IGST will be applicable. Okay, similarly, when there is import of specified actionable claim, we had studied in the last chapter amendment, import of specified actionable claim of online money gaming. Let's say just like your Dream 11, let's say there is some other online gaming website of outside India. Okay, and they are providing this particular supply of specified actionable claim here in India. Again, that is intangible. Okay, again, it will not have any custom clearance, etc. So, on that, custom duty is not applicable, but IGST will be applicable. Okay, and other than these, example, tangible goods, on that, what will be applicable? Customs will also be applicable, plus IGST will also apply. Are you clear with this? Yes, that was one particular amendment in that section. Now going on to the next part of amendment, that is yes. We are starting with reverse charge mechanism. Now see, one big thing that they have done under reverse charge mechanism. I don't know if you recollect while studying. Okay, we had discussed about reverse charge mechanism in case of goods and reverse charge mechanism in case of services. Okay, and for goods I had told you that the list, now when you supply goods, at that time also reverse charge mechanism is applicable, but that was not relevant for our syllabus. Okay, we had the list in our textbook. Okay, but then I had told you no need to read this particular list. Okay, now what your ICAI has done, okay, for the purpose of May 24 exam and onwards, they have cut this statement, not relevant for exam purpose has been cut. What does that mean? That means that this particular list where the supply of goods are taxable under reverse charge mechanism, this list needs to be remembered and this list is relevant from exam point of view. Are you clear with this? Okay. So now these are the things, okay, these are the things whenever a supplier is providing it to the recipient, the supplier is not going to collect the tax on that from the recipient. Instead, the recipient will directly pay the tax to the government. Okay, for services we had studied so many pointers. Okay, for goods we had not at all studied it. Okay, now see, I'll just read it. Okay, anyway, remembering part you have to do, but let's read it once. Goods like cashew nuts, not shelled or peeled, BD wrapper leaves, tobacco leaves and raw cotton when supplied by agriculturist, farmer, to any registered person. So, farmer is not liable to pay tax on it. Then supply of lottery when supplied by government to the lottery distributor, government is not responsible to pay the tax. Silk yarn when supplied by manufacturer of silk yarn to any registered person. At that time, manufacturer of silk yarn is not required to pay the tax. It will be paid by that registered person. Then used vehicles, seized and confiscated goods, old and used goods, waste and scrap when supplied by government. Okay, by government, state government, union territory to any registered person. Now, let's say the Ministry of Transport has seized some goods or it is having some used vehicles, etc. And when it is supplying to any registered person for its further use, etc. At that time, again, the government is not required to pay the tax. It will be done by the registered person under reverse charge mechanism. But now there was an amendment in this. Okay, there was an amendment in this, that is central government excluding the Ministry of Railways. So, when this waste and scrap is provided by Ministry of Railways to any registered person, then forward charge mechanism is applicable. That is, Ministry of Railways will be required to collect the tax and pay it to the government. Okay. Then, essential oils other than that of citrus fruit, namely essential oils, namely peppermint and other mint, when supplied by an unregistered person to a registered person. Such some essential oils provided by unregistered to any registered person, then obviously if it is supplied by unregistered person cannot collect the tax, therefore reverse charge mechanism is applicable. And priority sector lending certificates when supplied by a registered person to another, generally in case of banks, etc., those are also taxable under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, so these are the cases. Generally when it is supplied by manufacturer or whenever it is supplied by registered person to another, when it is supplied by government or by the manufacturer, etc., to any registered person, at that time generally they have included all the cases which are coming under reverse charge mechanism. Are you clear till here? Yes. Okay. Now from here your services part started. In services also there are 1 or 2 amendments which are coming up here. Yes. See here. Do you recollect this point? Services supplied by government. The amendment is very, very small and corresponding amendment is going to come in the exemption chapter also. Okay. Now services supplied by government to a business entity, excluding those services. Do you recollect? Excluding 4 services. First one was renting of immovable property. Then services by Department of Post, services in relation to aircraft or vessel, and transport of goods and passengers. Except for these 4. Okay, except for these 4, when the services were provided by government, etc., to any business entity, then the reverse charge mechanism was applicable and business entity was required to pay the tax on it. Okay, now this point remains the same, but along with Department of Post, okay, along with Department of Post, Ministry of Railways, Indian Railways is also included there. Okay, we had discussed this, that whenever the services are provided, Department of Post, Ministry of Railway, can we say they come under central government only? So when these 2 persons, okay, when these 2 persons are providing any service to business entity, then forward charge is applicable. Okay, so now the purpose of this amendment was whenever the Ministry of Railway is providing any such services to the business entity, etc., then in such case forward charge will be applicable, and the other person, when we give this particular service, we will collect the tax from the other person, will pay it to the GST department, the other person will be able to take the credit of the same. Right? That is one place where the amendment came. Second one, similarly, do you recollect this entry number 5A, where we had discussed about renting of immovable property to any registered person? Above it was any other services provided to business entity. Here it was any other services. Here it is renting of immovable property services to any registered person. In that case also, here. In case of government, they have excluded Ministry of Railways. So, example, if Ministry of Railways is providing any service to a registered person of renting of immovable property, then reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. Forward charge mechanism or forward charge concept will be applicable there. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Then after that, the next one. Do you recollect this point? When the services were supplied by director of the company to the company, director is providing his professional services to the company. Okay, then in that case, how will the director go and take the registration, etc.? Therefore, reverse charge mechanism was applicable. Okay, and for that they have come up with a circular. Now they are telling us here is this entire point of reverse charge mechanism will be applicable on the director when he is providing the services for official purposes. Okay, for company means in capacity of a director, when he is providing the service to the company, only at that time reverse charge mechanism is applicable. What if the director is providing any services in his personal capacity or in his private capacity? Example, he is giving some property on rent to the company, that he is not giving in capacity of a director. So at that time reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. Are you clear with this? Yes. See this, it is hereby clarified that services supplied by director of a company or body corporate to the company in his private or personal capacity are not taxable under reverse charge mechanism. So only those services which the director has given in capacity, okay, in capacity of a director, only then RCM is applicable, otherwise normal forward charge is applicable. Are you clear till here? Yes. Okay. Then going on to the next one. This list of additional services, which is there at the end of the table, which is for reverse charge under IGST provisions. I don't know if I don't remember if I told you this reverse charge provisions under IGST. This is not relevant for CA inter students. This is mainly relevant for CA final students. Okay. List of additional services which were there under reverse charge under IGST. First we had studied for that Netflix. Okay. And second point that we had studied was if there is any services provided by a person who is situated outside India. Okay, by way of transportation of goods by way of vessel, ship, okay, from outside India to custom clearance here in India, then in that case reverse charge was applicable, and importer was liable to pay the tax on the same. Okay, now listen, that entry has been totally deleted. Okay, that entry has been totally deleted. I will tell you the impact, okay, so that you will be able to understand the relevance of this in the other chapter also. Just try to understand. Now let's say we are here in India. Okay, let's say Arpita Limited is here in India. Okay, and outside India, there is a particular person who is supplying me the goods. Okay, my supplier is there outside India, means basically I am importing the goods. Okay, now if that person wants to send the goods in India, can we say we will have to take the service of a transportation company? Okay, and let's say the transportation company is also located outside India. Okay, now listen how the transaction went. Okay, now I entered into an agreement with this particular supplier and I told him that I want to import the goods from outside India. The supplier said, okay, fine, I will do the import. I will do the export from the other country. Okay, and for that we availed the services of a transporter. Okay, and this transporter is also situated outside India. Okay, now can we say this supplier for the purpose of transporting the goods here in India, this supplier would have taken the service of the transporter? Yes, because I am sitting here in India, I say that I want the goods till the Indian customs port. Okay, then I will take the goods to my factory. That is my headache. But till India's customs area, I want you to send the goods. Okay, that is on the basis of CIF, cost, insurance, freight. Okay, that is everything will be included in the price and please send me the goods. Okay, so can we say this supplier from whom I am purchasing the goods, that person will arrange for the transport, right? Now, can you tell me here who is supplying the service to whom? Transportation service I am talking about. Who is providing the transportation service to whom? Can we say the transportation service is provided by this transporter to that supplier? Okay, but who is the ultimate beneficiary? Ultimate beneficiary is Arpita here in India. So now in this case, can we say both of these persons are situated outside India? Okay, so that's why, so for this particular purpose, what the GST law did was, they said that since both of them are situated outside India, they will not be able to pay the tax here in India on this transportation facility. Therefore, the person who is the ultimate recipient, okay, the person who is the ultimate payer of that consideration, can I say ultimately Arpita is bearing the freight? So, the person who is ultimately going to pay, that person becomes the person who is liable to pay the reverse charge mechanism, GST under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, that was the original provision. Okay, now what they said was, suppose if, can we say, anyway when the goods will be imported here in India, Arpita will be paying customs on it plus IGST, right? And that will be paid on the CIF value. And can we say that CIF already includes the freight? So Arpita is anyway going to pay the tax on imports, that is custom duty plus IGST at the time of import. Then why are you telling Arpita to pay the tax on this transportation charges also under RCM? Can we say she is liable for tax twice, which is not correct. Therefore, in such a case, they said that on this particular transaction, that is on transportation services provided by a transporter from outside India to a supplier outside India, for which the tax was required to be paid by the importer here in India, there is no tax liability that should be put on the importer, because that importer is already leviable for IGST when import is going to happen. Therefore, it was removed from here under RCM. Okay, it is removed from RCM also, and then we will study in further chapters. It is removed from the taxability point also. This is not at all taxable because this was leading to double taxation. Are you understanding this? Yes. So whenever basically transportation services are provided by an outsider person to a supplier outside India, where the goods are imported by an Indian person, so this Indian importer is not required to pay any GST under reverse charge or even under forward charge. Are you clear with this? Yes. Okay. Chalo. Last amendment. Last amendment under this particular chapter, which is coming under e-commerce operator. Okay, which is coming under e-commerce operator. Now see what are they telling here for the purpose of this e-commerce. Do you recollect this e-commerce operator? We had taken so many examples for this Ola, Uber, etc. Okay, now see what is the amendment here. Now, do you recollect this first point, transportation of passengers, Ola, Uber example we had taken. See what they have done now is transportation of passengers by radio taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle or any other motor vehicle. Do you recollect we had taken the example of Ola, Uber, Rapido also? Yes. Now from that they are removing the term called as omnibus. Okay, omnibus point is removed from there. Means if any person is providing service by transportation of passengers by omnibus through e-commerce operator, then that is not considered as a notified service, and therefore 9.5 will not be applicable. This is what we understand till now. Okay, but what they did was correspondingly they have inserted one new point there. What is that new point? Services by way of transportation of passengers by omnibus. This is considered as a notified service except when the person supplying such service through eco is a company. Okay, means the person who is supplying the service of transportation of passengers by omnibus, if it is a company, then it will not be covered by section 9.5. Now let's say there is a service supplier, okay, who is ultimately supplying the services. Can you see? Yes, who is ultimately supplying the services to the customer through eco. Okay, I am talking about transportation of passenger service by omnibus. Okay, first case, if this supplier is a company, okay, it is formed in the nature of a company, then in such case 9.5 is not applicable. Okay, then 9.5 is not applicable means eco is not required to pay the tax, then the tax will be paid by this particular company only. Okay, then tax will be required to be paid by this particular company only. But what if the supplier is other than company? Let's say it is an individual. Then in that case, section 9.5 is normally applicable. Are you clear with this? Okay, so if the person who is supplying the service through eco is a company, okay, if it is a company, then section 9.5 is totally not applicable. Okay, section 9.5 is not applicable means eco is not required to pay the tax on it. Tax on it that will be paid by the supplier. So basically they are telling that when the supplier is a company and if it is providing services by transportation of passengers by omnibus only, not to other modes of vehicle, then in such a case, let the responsibility of payment of tax be on the company. Are you clear with this? Okay, this is going to have an impact in the chapter called as TDS TCS when we will do it later. Okay, again I will give you the reference and we'll try to link it in that particular chapter. Do you recollect this? If you are covered under section 9.5, then the eco was required to pay the tax. But if you are not covered under section 9.5, okay, if you are not covered under section 9.5, then eco is not required to pay the tax on the same. Simple, everyone clear with this? Yes. Okay. I think no more amendments in the chapter. Yes, there was no amendment in composition scheme also. This amendment, I think we have already considered now. Persons who were not eligible for composition scheme. This was a proposed amendment. Persons not eligible to opt for composition scheme. Any person supplying goods. This goods word was cut from there. Any person supplying goods through e-commerce operator, or that was there. So that particular person was not eligible to opt for composition scheme. So because of this amendment, goods word was cut there. Means if any particular person wants to opt for composition scheme, that person is eligible to supply goods through e-commerce operator. Okay, anyone who is supplying services through e-commerce operator still cannot opt for composition scheme. Okay, but if I am providing goods, through a e-commerce operator, I can still opt for composition scheme. Okay, this was the proposed amendment and that has been notified. This we had already covered in our lecture. Yes, that's it. This was the amendment in your charge chapter. Manageable, everyone? Yes.